Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first official episode of INDU Talks, also known as the IISE podcast. My name is Jose, and I will be your host for today. In today's episode, we're discussing some of the most important topics in industrial engineering. These are Lean Six Sigma and operational excellence. And joining us today is a very special guest. His name is Gaby Sedra, and he's the founder and president of GoLEANit. Gaby has helped many organizations improve and grow by providing valuable consulting and training services through his organization, GoLEANit. And I also want to mention that he's actually an alumni in Concordia, an industrial engineering alumni. And I'm really happy to have him here today. Thank you so much for joining us, Gaby.
Thanks for having me, Jose. I'm really happy to be a part of this and helping out Concordia along the way. So it's a
We're
pleasure.
It's all our pleasure. Thank you so much for being here today.
Great, great.
So, Gaby, I just wanted to start out by asking you, could you provide a quick overview of what GoLeanit is and include a little bit about its mission and the services that it offers?
Yeah, so GoLeanit is a lean services and solution provider. So it does have industrial engineering embedded in it. What we do is we're a consulting firm that we reach out to different organizations and provide services on how we could improve the people side, empowering and enabling their employees to act like owners, the process side to institutionalize lean in their organization and the purpose side, which is more strategy for the organization. And we try to link all of these, the people, the process, and the purpose by providing them a set of solutions and as well as services. We have e-learning courses, obviously, to help them accelerate the learning and development, like Lean Six Sigma, white belts, yellow belt, green belts, and so on, where we give them globally accredited certification. We do a lot of coaching. And, our mission is really to help companies become better in the most efficient and effective way to become a continuous improvement organization. So we want to go to any company, develop problem solvers, be basically developing industrial engineers, across. You can imagine if you're an industrial engineer and you had a very nice bachelor's, right? And you graduated,
Mm.
you're gonna feel like a foreigner inside the industry. But when you walk in and you teach people some of the key principles in a very simple way, and you teach them to apply it and get the return of investment, now you see how you created a multitude of industrial engineers across, and it's a beautiful thing to do it. The company, we put a model called Symphony of Efficiency, which is really the philosophy behind it, Symphony of Efficiency. It's like you're orchestrating an organization in a way that there's harmony in an organization. Now, obviously, this is an ideal state, but what you want is when you're walking into an organization that there is instability or things that are not working well together, lots of silos. How could we bring fluidity to the organization and that things can be well connected? And that's in essence the job of an industrial engineer. So that's how our company can have an impact. And we partner with other people in the process of doing that.
Okay, so essentially, you provide consulting services for companies and you give them insights that an industrial engineering would provide using the skills that we learn as industrial engineers in university, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the stuff that you learn in industrial engineering is really embedded in the way we bring it to the industry. However, always remember, right? Industrial engineering is a complex field, and you want to be able to tailor the language that you're talking to anybody in the organization. So and to any industry, right? It doesn't have to be manufacturing. It could be a service industry. It could be this, you name it, right? Like we've touched all the different types of industries throughout our career and my career specifically, I've worked in multiple industries. So the value of an industrial engineer goes beyond production, but there is so much to apply in a very practical way through the lean principles that our company has. So it's an extension to what an industrial engineer would do usually.
Right. So I always hear this common comment on industrial
Yeah.
engineering. I always hear that our major allows us to essentially work anywhere. It's a very broad major that once you finish it, you can go into any industry. Would you
Yeah.
say this is an accurate description? I'm still
Yeah.
in my undergrad, so I haven't graduated yet, but that's one of the reasons why I actually started this major because I could have the ability to go anywhere, which is similar to what we were just talking about.
Yeah. Industrial engineering is one of those fields that it is very broad.
Because what has happened with me multiple times is that people ask me what actually is industrial engineering, and there's also many times where I encounter my other engineering classmates in
Yeah.
mechanical engineering, software engineering, computer, and they actually make fun of us as if we weren't engineers, but actually it's the complete opposite. Like you were saying, we could be the people that guide the symphony, the maestro behind the entire business. But why do you
Yeah.
think that we have this common reputation, or there's this misconception about industrial engineering?
So there's two parts to your question. Well, first, the title of industrial engineer. When I talk to my friends, my peers, they often think industrial engineering is more related to civil engineering. So
Mm,
right off the back, the title itself is misleading. So they're thinking you're working in buildings and so on. So there's something that has to do with that part that kind of doesn't resonate with the industry needs, right? At the moment. But also like industrial engineering is misunderstood in the sense that people always associate it with production only. So they say, well, okay, so you're an industrial engineer. Now that we understood what you guys do, well, now go work in a production line or go work on a manufacturing line, which is like a place that accepts a lot of industrial engineers and is very how do you say, you can accelerate your career in a manufacturing environment. However, it's limiting the industrial engineer because I know as many industrial engineers that were successful in the transactional world. Like you can work in the service industry, transactional. You don't have to work. You can work in banking. There's so many areas where an industrial engineer can apply the principles and accelerate in that field, right? So
right.
I think there's some education to be done, but there's also work to be done by the universities, in my opinion, to kind of make that bridge possible. Like, even the type of internships that they offer students should not only be, well, working in the manufacturing
Hmm.
field. Now, if I tie a little bit what we spoke about the symphony of efficiency and the role of the symphony of efficiency and how you conduct a symphony of efficiency, well, you need someone to facilitate that, right? And
Right.
facilitating that flow, the flow, in my opinion, is the role of an industrial engineer in the organization. So an industrial engineer should understand how all the departments work together, right? Because when you look at how the inefficiencies in any company, the biggest inefficiencies you will see is what happens between each department,
Mm,
okay? And between each level in an organization. So between, the operational level, the management level, the senior leadership level, that's where you find the biggest waste in an organization. And then even bigger between the supplier and the company and the clients. So if you look in between, that's where you're going to find the biggest waste. And there is where the industrial engineer should have his eyes very, very open and not just to say, well, we're going to put this industrial engineer in this one department. That's, that's like, it's like one cup in the entire ocean, right? So
Right.
you can't fill it. Like, so you really have to be a part of multiple areas of the value stream.
That's very true what you said about the internships that are offered for most industrial engineerings. In my experience, I found that most of them entail jobs such as manufacturing processes, programming softwares, when industrial engineering actually gives you a lot of um, different options that you could work in,
Yeah.
such as
Yes.
consulting, like in KPMG or EY. So
Yes.
here at Concordia, we should try to spread that multifunctional ability that we have more in terms of internships. And I wish that we could see that more because currently I'm looking for internships, but most of the internships that I'm finding are only manufacturing processes, supply chain, programming
Yeah.
softwares. And I would also be interested in like seeing how industrial engineering could work inside a bank, but I'm not finding many internships that are
Yeah.
targeted for industrial engineers at
Yes.
banks. So yeah, that's a very good point that you brought up. As far as the skills that an industrial engineering could offer, what do you think are some of the most important like topics that we learn that we can provide for the companies that we work with? I remember you said Lean Six Sigma was one of them.
Yeah, so Lean Six Sigma is definitely like a good methodology and a good tool to bring to your, to the toolkit. Like, having that framework and being able to think in that type of efficient way of solving problems, it's a second nature to an industrial engineer. That's without a doubt. Like for you, for most of the industrial engineer, Lean Six Sigma, it's like music to your ears. It should be simple for you. The idea is, how do you coach other people in the industry to use it? How do you be trained at that the methodology and be able to train other people or coach other people that are not exposed to this type of thought process or way of working. So the key component of an industrial engineering skill set that they bring is their ability to be analytical and analyze and solve problems that the companies have. So that's really, really important. Like I would say that's a top one, being able to grab very complex data and analyze it and bring it with simplifying it, taking the complex and simplifying it, to the management team, to your teams. So like that, you can solve the right problems. The
Right.
second I would say is change management. Now, change management is not something that I would imagine that they give to you at university. Maybe they do. Maybe you have a portion of it, but change management, I would say roughly it's 80% of the job, because you're dealing with people, right? An industrial engineer doesn't only deal with data, you're dealing with a lot of people. And so, what's the problem with bringing change to people? What do you think?
Well, for the most part, people don't really like change. So
Yeah, I mean, exactly,
they
right?
they wouldn't want to listen to an industrial engineering just because of the fact that it's a new concept that they could be talking about.
Yeah,
And people like to stick to what they know, to the traditional way of doing things, when concepts such as Lean Six Sigma could actually probably help them a lot. And just because of
yes.
not wanting to do the change, they're missing out on that opportunity that we offer as industrial engineers.
Absolutely. So you have to think of it like you're going into someone's house, right? And if you go into
Mm.
someone's house, would you start moving the furniture of people and rearranging their house without their permission or without getting them involved or engaged in the process? It's gonna backfire, right?
Right.
And especially when you're just a student, like you're a student and you're coming in like straight from university and you're going into the work field and you're very ambitious and excited, and then you want to kind of go change stuff because that's what they taught you at school, and so you want to use that. But the problem is, you can't just go from using the data that you're really good at and then going to change stuff, like doing that straight line right away. And what's missing in between, the gap that's missing, is change management, right? So you need to
Is that
learn
pain or change management? Like how
change
change?
management. Change management is a technique. The technique of managing change in an organization is
Oh,
very important for an industrial engineer. And it saves a lot. It will help you facilitate the way you know, you the way you want the impact to be in the organization. So you can have the most beautiful data. You can have the most factual. You could show to people that things are wrong, and you can prove it to them that it's wrong. But then wonder why, people don't like those ideas, or you wonder why, how come it's so logical, it makes so much sense. So change management helps you to understand how to get the people along with you on the journey for change. And as an industrial engineer, I would say this is like the second component. So you have the analytical side, and then you got that
the
side
people side,
of it. Yeah. Now the third thing is your ability to think big, to think, wide, and then go down, and not the opposite. So where a major pitfall of industrial engineers is sometimes they are put in a department, right? And right away they look deep on how to solve a specific problem or a specific project. But in reality, you need to see how everything is connected to each other, like an ecosystem, like the entire ecosystem. And then you are able to break it down into where are the priorities for solving the right problem, right? So it's not always that straightforward, but you need to have that skill set of saying, I'm going to look big first, I'm going to take a step back, right? Gather the data that and then narrow it down like a funnel. You know how a funnel looks like?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so
Narrow
you
it
bring
down
it down and narrow it down to that. So these are, I would say, the three fundamental skill sets that I would break it down a good industrial engineer, analytics, change management, and their ability to start big and then narrow down their perspective.
right? When you were talking about change management, I was reminded of a common quote that I hear also on industrial engineering. It's that we are probably one of the most people-oriented types of engineering. Would you say, in your personal experience, that this is very applicable? Like, is it a true statement?
Yeah, I think there is a part of industrial engineering that's management, right? And the
Right.
management is like I was mentioning, change management, people management, right? So you need to be, one of the skills you have to develop or enhance and improve is the ability to communicate, the ability to lead, and you think of it by design, right? Like maybe a person is not in, maybe an industrial engineer might be more into the analytics. But then when you go into the work field, in order to justify your value, you
Mm.
need to be able to interact with all the departments and all the levels.
Hmm.
So even if you were a shy person or a person who doesn't really interact with people, the job itself will develop you, right? Because you're going to see yourself having to talk with all the management levels and
Hmm.
and across. I mean, I remember when when I was a student, I was working for CIARI, which is, I don't know if you still have it at Concordia, but CIARI is still there. Concordia Institute of Aerospace Design and Innovation, I believe that's the
I haven't
so
heard of it, but
yeah, so this was a program that would connect aerospace companies to the students. And so I was fortunate to be nominated to be in that program. And so I got the chance to work for Bell Helicopter and Pratt and Whitney when I was a student. Now, what it taught me is I had to present to the president of Bell Helicopter. I had to present to the management team. I had to work with the management team, but I also had to work with various departments. I was serving various departments, and so that taught me that, I had to get out of my shell. Like I had to go and learn. I had to go and speak with people and kind of network with them. And it wasn't something necessarily that was taught in industrial engineering,
Mhm.
but the practice of it, as we go through it, made me better.
I wanted to ask you about the change management. Your company in GoLeanit, I imagine this is something that you also provide consulting for the companies that work with you, right?
Yeah, we have to, because if you don't put change management, like a lot of people will deploy only the Lean Six Sigma techniques. And so the Lean Six Sigma techniques, it's like the analytics that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
If you give them the tools, then they're gonna struggle to make any changes. So we provide a lot of coaching and additional courses. We have some e-learning courses that are also specifically under change management, but we try to do coaching with application. So the person takes the training, and then they attend coaching and they have a project. So it's kind of like, you're working on the project, but with someone coaching you along the side. So you introduce change management techniques. The other thing we do is we try to address the leadership team of a company. So the CEO, the C-suite, they call them, like the chief financial officer and so on, to educate them on continuous improvement, right? So we need to bring change management to them as well, because our goal is to transform the culture, first of all. So in order to transform the culture, you have to change the behavior of the leadership team. And maybe the leadership team is very traditional, like they might not know how to engage their employees or empower them. And so we have to start with that, like that alignment, and engaging them, and teaching them to engage their employees and to trust their employees and all of that. And that requires a lot of change management. So we give them change management courses, we give them the right tools, and then you see a person's mind just shifts, and it starts changing, and it starts making sense to people, and becomes fun and enjoyable, right? Like you enrich the working place to make it more fun for them. So yeah.
I wish Concordia had a course on change management, because now that I think about it, it is actually so important for us, since this concept that you talked about, that people don't like change. If you're a shy person that doesn't know how to communicate with people, then it's something that could become really difficult. So I really wish Concordia had a course on that, like you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I learned it
How did
not
you learn about it?
necessarily
I wanted
the
to ask you about that. Yeah.
I didn't necessarily learn it the easy way. I mean, when I was also graduated, um, I worked in a unionized environment, and in
Unionized, what does that
unionized,
mean?
meaning there's a union for the workers, where there's certain rules that protect the workers. But when you have a like they call it in French syndicat, and often it's like in manufacturing or or production floor, they could be unionized, and it's good. It protects them from certain things they shouldn't do in their job description. But what happens is sometimes it's hard to introduce change in those environments. It's harder to introduce change in those environments. So again, I had to learn it the hard way, because sometimes you would do a session and you don't get the people engaged. You have everything prepared, and it's kind of like I was saying to you, you have all the data right. You think you've done everything right, you know, everything by the book. And so I said, well, I was a good industrial engineer. I mean, I was, I did my internships good. I mean, I knew how to do this stuff. I was very confident in my abilities. But then when you face certain, very, very tough situations or confrontational situations with people who completely don't want to change, I realized that it's not always, straight. You can't just, it's not always logical. So you have to learn certain techniques. And it took me a while. So I had to kind of acquire certain trainings. Definitely the Lean Six Sigma helped me myself, like throughout my career. I did some change management courses and certifications. So all of this education helped me to kind of go through it. Yeah.
Did you, by any chance, study Six Sigma in a more advanced level to the point where like are you a black belt or a green belt or anything like that? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
so I'm a master black belt. So
Oh,
master
wow.
black
Okay.
belt is I actually did my black belt twice. So I did it in two different times. So master black belt is usually when you reach the stage where you can do what I'm doing, kind of like you can coach an entire enterprise. You can build the infrastructure for continuous improvement in the organization or just the Lean Six Sigma. But basically you're in a position where you can build the infrastructure around Lean Six Sigma. So I try to build it in a way where I can adapt it to the organization. And that's the experience that I've acquired over the years. Also, what helped me is working in a diverse organization. I mean, I went from two companies of aerospace, two companies of medical manufacturing, a distribution, an electric distribution company, digital
Wow.
manufacturing, the biggest consulting firm, and so I learned a lot from cultures and
Yeah.
different sizes of organizations. So whenever I'm faced with a company, I know how to make Lean Six Sigma fit in their type of environment. But we obviously offer other types of techniques and tools. But yes, that's kind of comes with the package that you
Right.
kind of have to coach them and know how to coach it and be certified to do it.
I was asking about this because I took a summer course called Introduction to Six Sigma, where
Yeah,
we had a project where we had to look at a company and a set of data, an actual data that they could provide. My project was the Ferris wheel here in Montreal. We looked
okay.
we looked at the different waiting times that the customers would experience at certain times during the day. And by looking at the data, we noticed that during the lunch and evening hours, there would be a very big congestion in the queue for the Ferris wheel, and the
Yeah,
congestion would actually clash with the line for the restaurant and the cafe and the lemonade stand. So it was very interesting, like seeing this analytical side of things that you're talking about, applying it to an actual real life world problem. And
yeah.
that I also like personally, I would want to get a master black belt or a green belt eventually. So I might
Mhm.
I might contact you. I might contact GoLEANit after. To
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we offered the white belt training just for the IISE, right? We offered it
I see.
for
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, we offered it for free actually for this
Oh,
year.
okay.
And this is for any of the students, so this is something that a courtesy of GoLeanit, so like that they can get a taste for it. But by all means, I mean, after the white belt, there's the yellow belt, there's the green belt.
Mm.
And some people get the green belt before they graduate. Now, if they I would say the green belt is very, very solicited in the industry. So it also is good for your resume as well. It's good for employers to because they're looking for that. You see, that's the thing is Lean Six Sigma is a word from the industry. It's not a word from the university. So
Right.
you may be saying, I'm an industrial engineer, and they say, well, what do we do with an industrial engineer? Oh, but I have a green belt. Oh, come. We need some green belts. We need Lean Six Sigma. So it makes a difference. And I try to tell
Yeah.
some students, I say, prepare yourself to kind of position yourself for success, and having the those right tools in your pocket. So yeah, this is good for you.
Yeah. I wanted to touch that topic because it's a common thing that we look at Concordia. Like we have a course entirely on quality control where we're introduced to Six Sigma. Then we have the elective Introduction to Six Sigma. And there's also a separate course you can take over the summer. I think
Yeah.
it's actually the white belt, what you were just talking about. I'm not completely sure, but
Okay.
I do know that it is a thing. So I wanted to touch that topic to let the students know about how the kind of opportunities that you could acquire as Lean Six Sigma, white belt, green belt, or black belt, like you mentioned.
Can
So
I go back to your Ferris wheel example?
yes, of course, yes.
I just want to show you how much opportunity there is in the world for industrial engineers, right? Like, so you mentioned a very, again, very, very practical example where you're looking at the waiting lines. What would you call waiting lines? How can you define waiting lines in an industry term? What do you think would be called that?
A queue?
Someone waiting. Okay, so queue is a very industrial engineering term. Like if you say, well, what does that represent? Like,
I
I'll
feel
just
like I'm
tell you.
being tested on for
No,
a big
no, it's fine. It's called waste. Waste.
waste. Oh,
Complete waste.
okay. Yeah, because
It's
it's
called complete waste, right?
Mhm.
Now, I'll just throw you just this number. Most organization, even the most lean organizations in the world, right? They have 90% or more waste in their organization. 90%
Wow.
or more. So that's some of the most lean maybe are closer to the 90%. I have seen some organizations that are closer to the 99% waste. And they could be profitable, right? They could be doing very good, but it doesn't mean that they're close to their potential, right?
Mm.
Like they have such huge potential. Now, when I say like you're going into an industry, whether it's banking, hospitals, the hospitals is a very good example, like emergency rooms, hospital. If you look at the amount of waste that there is, you talked to me about one example of waste, which is the queue lines. Well, the queue lines is like a symptom of how inefficient an organization is, right? It's the same thing about waiting. So all of that stuff you look at it and you say, well, I have so much opportunities as an industrial engineer. So you're like, everywhere you look, you start saying, oh wow, like all of this is so a lot of the people I'm coaching, in organizations that I'm coaching, their eyes open up. All of a sudden, they look at things in a different way. They look at things from the lens of a customer, right?
Mm.
And this is a good way of looking at things. If you visualize things as being a customer, you really see the waste. So when you're at the Ferris wheel, right,
Mm.
and you're standing there, you're the customer,
Yeah.
and it bothers you. It bothers you a lot that you're waiting. Well, the same thing I say to people in companies that are the size of like 70,000 people, right? I said, you're 70,000 employees in this company. But who defines the value? It's not the 70,000 employees, it's the customer at the end of the day. If the customer were to walk inside the company, right? Mr. Customer decides to walk inside the company and look at all the activities that the company does, opens the box and walks and looks at all the activities. Would the customer be willing to pay for each one of these activities,
Mm.
right? Are you willing
Given
to
that
pay for,
perspective of waste that they can
yeah.
identify. Okay. Uh-huh.
So I once went to Disney World, okay?
Okay.
I took my kid, right? We didn't buy the fast pass. We didn't buy the fast pass, right? It was an extra, I think, I don't remember, maybe $100 or so. We just said, okay, my kid is 5 years old at the time. And I said, maybe it's already expensive to go in, right? It's expensive vacation. So I said, I'm not gonna buy the fast pass. But then what ended up happening is, the only ride that we saw in front of us was the Dumbo ride. So, the famous Dumbo,
Yeah,
it's
the
not,
carousel. I think it's a carousel, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's something like that, exactly. Like a carousel.
Oh,
And
I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, it goes up, it goes down.
Roller coaster, roller coaster.
It's literally, it's 1 minute, less than a minute, like maybe 30 seconds.
Mhm.
Okay. Can you imagine how long we waited in the line that day?
Not a lot longer than that for sure. At least an
I
hour.
kid, I kid you not. Like it was somewhere in the range between 3 to 4 hours.
For a 30-second ride. It's not even
Yes.
one of the popular ones. That's
So it's not one of the popular ones, but it just goes to show to you that, okay, so Disney World is probably one of a very successful organization. They have industrial engineers that work for them. It's highly successful. Everybody likes it. It has a good name. But even those that have a very good name, how did I feel as a customer? I didn't feel very good that day. In fact, it gave me a very bad impression of Disney World. Okay, maybe I could have got the fast pass, which is true, but still, you feel at the end of the day that you wasted your money, you wasted your time, and your kid is not enjoying it because keeping a kid in line for 3 hours is not fun at all. So just to give to you again the perspective of the client, how much it's valuable for an industrial engineer is really the key differentiator.
right. We try to look at the areas that have waste and eliminate that waste. Optimization, no? Like improving the efficiency of things.
All of it is optimization. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The name of the game. And that's why you see it everywhere.
This is not necessarily on topic, but would you say industrial engineering is a very business oriented type of major? Because if you're given all the skills that are required to be the maestro of a symphony, to be the maestro of a business, then you must obviously also be well knowledgeable, knowledge,
Well versed in industrial
well
and
versed
in the
business
business
concepts,
world.
business management.
I mean, I think it touches the business for sure. Like it touches the financial. I think we need to have more financial business in industrial engineering. I think it's important for them to know that the business drives industrial engineering, right?
Mhm.
So you gotta make sure that you understand the financials of a company and all of that. So I think that your point could be, yes, it's important to integrate more business inside industrial engineering. But industrial engineering, you're still working a lot as infrastructure, and you often work in regulatory environments, and you work alongside many technical engineers. So it's also good to have the engineering side of it very heavy. So you're not it's not only business, but you understand that making a change requires sometimes a lot of engineering changes to it, right? So it's a balance, I would say, between business side and engineering side. I don't want to say it's purely business. There's still
Oh,
an engineering there's still an engineering side to it, but I would say it's the only one that has that mix that you can find.
you were saying at the start of the podcast, a lot of people don't really know what industrial engineering is. They always ask, what is industrial engineering? So, what would you say is the main way that you could describe industrial engineering?
I would definitely say that industrial engineer is there to facilitate change for an organization. And change can be, a lot of people can interpret change as transformation. That's a part of it, transforming the organization. So we're there to facilitate, to enable that change. Now, there choose the way you want to be able to word that, but the key is we need to be a part of that transformation. We need to be definitely involved in the transformation and how the organization evolves year over year, and not to be necessarily in one area. And that was my point about orchestrating.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think in most of my courses, although we haven't touched the people oriented, the change concept, for sure, the analytics and the efficiency, eliminating the waste from things. It's a very common thing that I've seen throughout my courses, and I'm excited to see how my major can delve into many different industries. I'm really happy that I chose industrial engineering. And I'm happy that we had this conversation too, because I've gained a lot of insight into the different things that I can end up doing as an industrial engineer. So I really appreciate the time that you dedicated today to sharing your experience and sharing about the skills that we gain as industrial engineers. And thank you so much for coming today, Gabby. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Jose, and good luck in all you're doing.
Thank you
Wishing
so
you all
much.
the best.
So for today, those are all the questions that we have. Again, thank you so much for joining, Gabby, and thank you for everyone who tuned in to watch this. I just wanted to give a quick reminder that you can catch this podcast on multiple platforms, including YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, and Instagram. So make sure to check it out. And thank you again. And we'll see you in the next episode of INDU Talks or the IISE podcast. Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you.